Hey, I'm going to do a, what do we call these? This is a impressions video. I don't know, whatever. But this fella just came on my radar and I'm like, okay, let's see what this guy's all about. So let's go ahead and see what he's got to say.
Why are you so shy? This isn't classroom. I'm not your teacher with the ruler ready to smack your fingers.
Right. So let's go ahead and stop there. So, so this fella, I'm kind of over top of him here. What he did was he just activated our sympathetic nervous system. So that's our fight or flight. But it's interesting. Even if you've never been hit by a ruler before, by a teacher, just the threat of it, right? We kind of actually get that sensation of getting hit or harmed in some way by a teacher. It's kind of like a shared experience that not everybody's had, but it's enough to bring that in. So he's actually triggering us. Now, there's another thing that he's doing there, which is a pattern interrupt, right? So this is what actually drew me to this video. And I was like, oh, what is he doing? So I've seen him do other things, but I'm kind of curious about what's going on here.
Notice how that conditioning follows us, right? Yeah, right? Yes. Please, sir. Yes. We're beaten children. Please. Now, do you want to know the harsh truth?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah? The harsh truth is, you want to know who beats you up more than anyone in the world?
Myself.
There's three people who know.
Yeah.
Apart from the three people who answered, any of you guys, any idea?
Ourselves.
Okay, 5, 6. I hear a few of ourselves. What about you quiet people?
Yeah, yourself.
You're doing it now.
Myself.
Literally, by not answering, internally you're doing it now. What's your name? Valentina. You know,
So you can obviously tell he's ramping up the audience and that kind of thing. That's all fine. And he's also getting buy-in, for his experience here, and he's using it as a shared experience so that everybody can get buy-in. So I like that. And then also too, he's saying, those of you who aren't buying in, those of you who aren't saying something, you guys are not wrong necessarily. I don't think any of his intentions are bad. At least none that I've seen on any of the other videos I've seen. It's more to just say, if you're not buying in, you're kind of in the outside. So go ahead and buy in, go ahead and feel that level of confidence that you come to the seminar to receive. Well, it's okay so far, pretty good. Pretty simple adult learning types of techniques.
you know what you're doing internally to young Valentina? Do you want to know? Let me just ask you, who abuses you the most?
Myself.
Okay, so now you said it. You didn't say before, which means internally, what are you saying to younger Valentina? Shut up! Shut up! Myself. Say it, Valentina, say it. Shut up! I always joke, a lot of my events is rehab for abusive parents.
Okay, so that's pretty intense kind of, work there for you to kind of connect with. That's pretty intense kind of work. So it's not necessary to maybe go this far over, but it is pretty triggering, especially for people who are have been traumatized. You just saw me go out. Like people who have been traumatized can get triggered. So again, he's trying to bring up all of these triggering moments that are kind of shared by people of it's a certain age frame too, as well, because capital punishment as children was kind of prevalent in 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe beginnings of 2000s. where it was maybe a lot more, what would I say, mainstream, and probably before the 70s too, So let's keep going here. I actually feel pretty triggered myself. I wonder where he's going to go with this.
All of you are abusive parents. The most cruel, terrible, abusive parents around. Oh God, that's right. I hope it stings. I'm Now, you're not abusive to anyone external. You're abusive to your inner child. Say you were to personalize different emotions. Say we take anxiety as your own kid. Anyone like anxiety? Whoa, that's like saying, hey, do you like all your kids? Yeah, but that one, no. What about anger? You like anger? Yeah, you do? Really? What about shame? You like shame? No? Oh, that's pretty harsh. You don't like shame? What about feeling sad? You like feeling sad? This year is like the police interrogation. Did you beat your child? No, I love my child. But secretly, you're beating your child. Now, I use harsh examples like this so it stings and so it hits, right? If you think of the actual concept, what am I really saying? Hey, what about embracing what you're feeling and loving what you're feeling? That's really the concept. Does that actually stick with you? No, you've probably heard it a million times before. You'll see people like, you got to love everything you're feeling. You'll see an old guru in India.
Oh boy, he's getting ready to go down a rabbit hole, which is fine. I think I know where he's going. It's do not kind of cover up the emotions that you have. He's asking you to own them. He's asking you to embrace them, to not beat yourself up for having those feelings. And he's just using really strong language, really in very triggering language for some people to hear. And even having it on my channel might feel a little rough to me, actually. But I can definitely see the direction that he's wanting to go, and he'll get there. I know he'll get there. He's done this a lot. Let's see. Let's keep going here.
You got to love everything you're feeling. You're like, okay. Everyone hears that. Does it actually click? No. You listen to it, and the next time you just put your phone down, and right after that, you start self-attacking. Here, I love taking just very extreme, visceral examples that are even shocking, that are even a little bit unsettling, so that you don't forget them. Because that's really what's going on. If you think of everything that is you, all of your emotions, your emotional guidance system, if you will, that's how it works, right? You have this emotional guidance system, which sends you different emotions depending on what's going on. If someone were to walk up to you and pull out a gun, what are you going to experience? Fear. I hope so, right?
So he's also talking about emotional guidance system is actually something that comes from Abraham Hicks. So these aren't new concepts. These are things that are he's pulling from NLP. He's pulling from hypnosis. He's pulling from CBT. He's pulling from Abraham, and he's asking the audience to not deny their emotions, and the natural responses to things. So I know I'm over explaining what he's already said, but it's kind of an interesting thing. As a reaction video, I'm just trying to determine, where he's getting ready to go. So it's kind of fun.
Now, what do? We label fear as bad. But it's pretty useful if someone pulls out a gun, no? People are like, no fear. You must be fearless. Buy my fearless course. So I'm going to meditate the bullets away. No. Is fear good if someone pulls out a gun? Yes or no? Yeah. If there's a threat, is it good? Yeah. What about if someone crosses a boundary? You're walking down the street, say someone walks up to you and says, ugh, and spits on you. What are you going to experience? Anger. Is anger good then? Yeah, it's letting you know, hey, someone crossed a boundary. Would you want to not experience anger if that happened?
I may not experience, I would probably experience surprise. and maybe some irritation or something like that. Not everybody might go directly to anger. It's kind of interesting.
Like, just give me more, please. No, you'd want to experience it. What about guilt? Yeah? You want to experience guilt? Really? Well, then how do you know you are acting out of integrity? How would you know if you don't experience guilt? How would you know that you're messing up? They allow you to navigate life. But what we do is we play favorites, right? We have all of our children, all of our emotions, just to simplify it. We have the good ones and the bad ones. We tend to place, for example, fear, anger, so on and so forth. Here we have happiness. I love you. Happiness. Excitement. Forgive my handwriting.
That is exactly
Passion.
how I write things, honestly, when I'm teaching.
Right? Feeling relaxed.
And spelling is out the window.
And we get swung back and forth. You feel any of these, you're like, yes. Feel some of those? No.
Yeah, that's all
But think
pretty
about
basic stuff.
the relationship with yourself, how insane that is.
Which I think is kind of interesting because it seems so simple, to just kind of go, oh, this is a bad feeling, this is a good feeling, and I need to accept all the feelings that I experience and make them my helpmates, which is what he's suggesting that we do. And you can. It's actually very simple to reframe yourself, which is basically what this is. It could be an NLP reframe. It could be a variety of other kinds of fun things we can do with our mind so that we don't stay so attached to what we're experiencing. So for me, I think he's on point. I don't know how deep down the rabbit hole he's going to go with it, or if we're kind of going to stay at this surface level. Let's see what happens.
We're like, why don't I feel whole? Why don't I love myself? Well, if you're abusing parts of yourselves, then it's normal to feel pretty bad, no? Why don't I feel whole? I feel like there's a hole within. Yet anytime anxiety might come up, just get down, get in the closet, don't. Everything's great. I feel so great. Oh, I'm a little angry. Ooh, someone crossed a boundary. Anger, get in the closet. Fuck off, anger. I'm great. There's no anger there. I feel so whole. It's insane what we do. Now, we then try to compensate seeking the solution out there.
I do. I like that he's addressing this because he's basically kind of like suggesting those kinds of new agey kind of concepts, or overly, positive thinking, or whatever is a mask. It's actually pulling something up and saying, you know what, I'm not going to feel that feeling. I'm not going to engage in it. And he is suggesting that since this is such a strong part of ourselves, to deny it is to deny that part of ourselves. And to put that mask on, or to push something aside, or to push who we are aside, is very dangerous. But to the outside world, it could look like we've got it all together. And if it looks like we have it all together, then when we have our breakdown, when we have our meltdown, when something bad does happen, people are like, I don't understand why she has no coping skills, or why he has no coping skills. And the truth is because they've been hiding from it the entire time. They've been hiding from their true emotions. And it's scary. It's really scary to face ourselves in that way at first. And so his suggestion here is, don't let it get to that point, I think, is what he's maybe not saying that yet, but I think that might be the direction we go in.
So just real quick, I'm editing this and I'm taking a look here. And if you notice on the whiteboard, he's only written out a couple of of the negative emotions, but he put a whole bunch of positive emotions. Is that interesting? I don't know. Is he hiding from his own emotions? Where is he in this? And he has said in many, not interviews, but in other things that I've noticed him do, that he had a lot of social anxiety as well. So fear and anger were up there, but anxiety wasn't, even though he spoke about it. So my mind just starts to analyze the whole thing and not necessarily, really anything, just something that just popped into my mind. And then, of course, there's tons of other things I can see here too that I didn't mention in the videos, but it's okay. I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing to bring up.
What would happen if you experienced some anxiety? Instead of, oh no, you'd be like, oh, yes. And your relationship would change completely. And it wouldn't have such a powerful, heavy hold on you.
He's right. Yeah. Again, it's all about the reframe. It's how can I adjust my thinking so that I can love myself better in this moment and the next moment and the next moment. Separating ourselves in one way, So a lot of people say, and a lot of different philosophy says, and a lot of different principles in psychology suggest another way, which would be to say that anxiety. So creating a little separation in there and allowing yourself to go, that's not who I am. This is not who I am. I am not my anxiety. Because once we claim that anxiety in one way, we are suggesting that that anxiety is who I am, and I'm never going to get out of it. I'm not going to be able to separate myself from it. It's going to be what takes over my life. What I think he's suggesting here, and we'll find out in a minute, is to have more of an integrative experience with the aspects of anxiety. So when we have an integrative experience, that means that we let the anxiety, we let the feeling of it move through us in a different way. Integration is where once we can really get our arms around it, once we can really grasp the concept of what anxiety is for us and what it means for us, is that we can work with it in a different way. We can allow it in a different way. And we can use it as a function that helps us to stay away from dark alleys or to transform it into a feeling of excitement. I've been doing anxiety work for the last 25 years or so. I had anxiety disorder at an early age. So I know it very well. I am very close to my anxiety, and I've worked with thousands of clients on anxiety. So I'm glad he's talking about this. It is a very personal journey, so to say his way is the only way, it is a step, to say my way is the only way. It does bring relief, but it's not the only way, right? So let's continue to hear what he has to say.
And that's the problem. The problem is never the thing, it's your relationship with that thing. This goes back to Buddhism, by the way. No attachment, no aversion. You experience all this. The problem is you're attached to only experiencing these and you resist these, and that creates suffering. If you actually embraced and welcomed whatever you're feeling, you'd be fine.
That's right. That's what Buddhist philosophy.
The problem is you feel bad, quote unquote bad, and then you feel bad about feeling bad, and you feel bad about feeling bad about feeling bad, and it just self-amplifies.
You have a lot more problems then.
So understanding this first model here, what if you started approaching the relationship with you that way? Whatever you're feeling right now, what if you were to truly embrace it as your own child, screaming for help? Here's anxiety you've been banishing. Please welcome me back, please. And you would actually embrace it and love it. Your insecurities, the same thing. Even personalizing younger you. What if you stopped abusing younger you and said, hey, I welcome you back. I choose to welcome you back. And this is the foundation of core confidence, by the way. It's not through compensating. Compensating, if you're abusing yourself internally and then trying to compensate through money, looks, so on and so forth, success, friends, social media, look at me, it'll never fix what's going on inside. Then you're just an abusive parent who has a perfect front. You're that parent who goes to parties with neighbors and puts on the smile. Everything's great at home. Our kids love us, and we love our kids.
Yeah,
and people
that
pretend.
repression.
Well, do you? Do you love yourself? And here's a little test. Think of the younger version of you that might have messed everything up. Think about it. There's always one version that surfaces. Think of your life. Your biggest regret. If only I didn't do that. If only I did that. If only I didn't say that. If only I said that. My life.
You know, honestly, like for me, regret and things like that, that really has come later in life. And it's a very fleeting moment, really, really fleeting, because once you understand that you came through all of these things in your life, all of the choices that you made have brought you here. Now, if you if you stop the story right now and you feel like a failure, well, then the story doesn't have a happy ending. But I have a feeling your story will continue on, right? So as it kind of continues on, recognizing that even if you made bad choices, even if all those things fell apart for you in your life, even if you shoulda, coulda, woulda a million times over in a bunch of different ways, it's actually a very interesting thing because it's a way for your ego to hook you in to not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, and feeling as though you are on the outside of things. And so if you do have feelings or sensations of regret, just know that doesn't matter because you can't go back. You can't change it. You may want to go forward and make a new choice, but ultimately your past is in the past. And the way Wayne Dyer says it is, it's the wake doesn't drive the boat. The engine drives the boat, and the wake is the past. You know, if you threw something into the wake of the boat, it would just sink to the bottom. There's nothing there to hold it. So the only thing that's holding it right now is you, and you can let it go. So cool, like it.
Life would be so different. What's that younger you that you've been hating the most? Think about it. Do you know? Do you know? Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I didn't have a good relationship with my mother because I was a bit manipulated by my dad to think that she's a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't the reality. And then she passed away when I was quite young, 11, and I've been beating myself up for not being the good kid over there and having like a fake reality of her. And that's, I think, my biggest regret as a kid.
You still think about it regularly?
I tell myself no, but I do that at least once a week or so.
What about you?
Me.
You can hold this.
I can't think of anything specific, really.
Really? Why do you hate yourself?
Ooh, interesting.
I wouldn't say I hate myself, but I would say I could be like a way better version than I am right now.
That's hate. It's funny how the mind always tries to downplay it. Like, I really don't hate myself, but
Okay. That is actually a very, very dangerous maneuver. I get what he's doing there, but it's an outside of a therapeutic setting where it's just you and the client. To open up something like that can be a little bit rough because she can start to believe that she does hate herself, which in actuality, she really may not. And he is doing this thing to stir up energy, and that's fine to a certain degree, but it's not necessarily the best approach. he's trying to get her to open up. So I do get where he's coming from. And it is definitely a stage presence type of thing. It's also an NLP type of thing. But he could go about it another way. And maybe he has studied NLP. Maybe he has his advanced certifications and different things like that. I would be hard pressed to see if he has any other types of things. Maybe he does. And he can open up a can of worms and close it back again without harming anyone. This type of sensational stuff, like he started with in the beginning and that kind of thing. But you'll see, and I do have some respect for this. He did kind of glaze over the first fella. There could be a number of reasons for that. One, I could maybe think of off the top of my head. Again, I don't know. I'm not in this man's shoes, which are gold. So, although I would be in a pair of gold shoes, I don't think I'd hesitate there. He kind of glazed over that one. He knew that was going to be a bigger deal to get into with probably the amount of time that he had. So I could definitely see why he would move past that one, because that's true trauma. That's true pain. And I know I lost my father when I was 3 years old. So I know the kind of pain that young man is experienced or have experienced. And I do think about my father a lot. And so I know what kind of can of worms that is. For him to then move quickly on to the next person, there was a reason for that. So, he may come back to this gentleman during the weekend or whatever it might be going on, but instead he wanted to push a button. And I think he wanted to push a button for the entire crowd. And he didn't feel good. This is an assumption. He didn't feel good about pressing the button of the boy that's seen some horror. Okay. All right. Let's go back to it. See if he cleans this one up. He's bringing humor and laughter into it. So
I could be way better than this. It doesn't mean you are a bad person if you acknowledge that you made mistakes or didn't do things the best you could. The more you are...
I wonder what we missed there. There was a little cut there. Kind of fun. All right. And by the way, I have nothing. This guy is fine. Right. He's fine. He seems to be doing what he feels is right. And, I think as long as he's not presenting this as some kind of, psychological therapeutic conference or something like that. And he's just helping people understand themselves better by bringing some information in front of them and possibilities and potentials. And he's doing it out of the goodness of his heart, which I do feel is true. I think this is all fine. But I would definitely want to know what I'm signing up for. Right. So for me, when people do stuff with me, they know they're signing up with a clinical hypnotherapist, not a stage hypnotist, clinical hypnotherapist and NLP master practitioner. So a little different. But I see the principles that he's weaving in through here, which I think is fantastic. All right, let's see where he goes.
You are open with just letting your ego take the hit. And it is somewhat painful. I've said for years, develop a perverted pleasure in the pain. Now, there's different kinds of pain. Don't take this out of context.
Yeah. So another way to say this is getting comfortable with your discomfort. He's just got a wilder way of saying things, more salacious, more in your face type of way of saying things, which is totally lovable. Because sometimes people need to hear it in that way. And I think that's fine.
Cut. Julian Blanc, develop a perverted pleasure in the pain. It's almost like, oh, yes, cut. No. What I'm saying is develop a perverted pleasure in the pain, which is the type of pain that your ego experiences when it starts dissolving.
Yeah.
Losing a bit of your ego, losing a bit of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think that's great. Again, he's really pushing that piece that I find very interesting. He is pushing that piece a bit, especially with the actions on stage that he just did. He doesn't necessarily, he may know every single person in that audience and what it is that they've gone through and that kind of thing. But if you don't, and you're doing stage work or you're doing something where you're working with in, a group context, I would highly recommend, I wouldn't say staying away from that kind of talk and that kind of thing, but I would say, maybe taking it down a little bit, because this fella obviously has no fear about what it is that he wants to say or what he wants to talk about and what he wants to address. But if you are wanting to do something like this for yourself, for a group of people or whatever, just make sure that you have a really good terms and conditions and people understand what they're coming in for. I think that's incredibly important as well. So the best thing to do when you are doing any kind of group work like this is to keep in mind who your audience is, what it is that they're wanting, what it is they're needing. I would do an application process to make sure that you are speaking to them in a way that they can understand. Now, I also know that if you are understanding your point of attraction, this is how you talk, this is who you are, that kind of thing, then you're going to attract the right people to you. Again, just make sure your terms and conditions are set up and people know what to expect before walking into something like that. Because he seems like somebody that's more like an in-your-face kind of person, but not necessarily like a Tony Robbins, a little bit more on the heavier side, emotionally triggering side, even though I know Tony Robbins does do that, type of thing. And he does push you out of your comfort zone and that stuff. But there's a gentleness to Tony Robbins that I think this young man is still in the process of opening up to, and really learning his flow and his pattern. And he, like I said, he's been doing this for a long time, so I'm not belaboring that point. But it's really important that we take a minute and we just go, okay, I know this is how I am. I know this is what I like doing. I know this is how it feels good to teach and to present things. Is it accessible for everyone? And if it is, great. And if it's only accessible for those people who love to have their mirror in their face, which I'm a radical responsibility person, so I totally get it. But also adding in the softness. Now, he has a long weekend, so we don't know. I don't know that he doesn't find his way into those soft points, which I think can be really beneficial. And maybe he does some work where people work together and do some things together. To me, he feels kind of like the Werner Erhard of, that personal development, in your face kind of stuff back in the day. So he has his own flavor. So I just say, you know what, take what you want, leave the rest and see what happens. That's all you can do.